Hello, everyone. I'm John from Fast Films, and today we're going to take a look at a 1998 American supernatural thriller film called Fallen. The movie begins with Detective John Hobbes helplessly crawling around in a forest. A voice explains that this is a story of how he almost died. We're then taken back in time. Detective Hobbes goes to a serial killer named Reese Edgar, whom he just caught. Around Reese's cell, several cameramen have gathered to record him for a documentary. As Reese and Hobbes talk, Reese puts his hand out to Hobbes for a handshake. As Hobbes shakes his hand, Reese starts speaking gibberish. The confused detective frees his hand and gets up to leave. Reese then asks Hobbes why there's a space between Lyons and Spakowski. Hobbes is confused but pays little attention and walks away. Soon after, Hobbes witnesses the execution of Reese. Before he dies, Reese mocks the spectators and sings "Time is on My Side" by the Rolling Stones. Somewhere else, a man whistling the tune of "Time is on My Side" walks out of a car and bumps into another man. A chain follows of people bumping into each other, ending in a man named Nunes. Soon after, Nunes rudely insults his employer and quits his job. That night, Hobbes gets a call. When he picks up, nobody responds. The next morning, we're introduced to Hobbes' intellectually disabled brother, Art, and his son, Sam. It's revealed that Hobbes is very close to the two. We see Nunes casually eating cereal and then brushing his teeth. Next to him in the bathtub lies a dead body. Hobbes arrives at his office and tells his partner, Jonesy, that he's received a call last night just like he did from Reese. They decide it might be a prank call and go to investigate a recent crime scene. They arrive at the scene where Nunes murdered a man called Muscovich. The police find puncture wounds on the body and the number 18 written on Muscovich's chest. They notice that the killer slept over at the victim's house after he did his job and had breakfast before leaving. They also find the words Lyons, ? Spakowski, written inside a closet. Hobbes explains that it was a riddle Reese asked him before dying. Back at the office, Hobbes tells Lieutenant Stanton about the similarities between the recent murderer and Reese. Stanton says it could be anyone who watched Reese's documentary. Hobbes asks his colleagues about the riddle. His colleague, Lou, reveals that Spakowski used to be a detective. Further clues lead Hobbes to a decorated detective named Robert Milano, who died in a gun accident. Hobbes relays this information to Stanton. Stanton refuses to help Hobbes and tells him to keep to himself whatever he learns about Milano. Later, Jonesy reveals that more patterns in the recent crime scene match with Reese's, including the killer being left-handed. Hobbes checks for the listings on Robert Milano but finds none. However, he manages to find Milano's daughter. While watching Reese's documentary with Hobbes, Jonesy remarks that the words Reese mumbled to Hobbes must be a foreign language. However, Hobbes believes it to only be gibberish. Hobbes pays Greta Milano a visit. When he asks about her father, Greta asks why the detectives had suddenly taken an interest in him. Hobbes explains that a chain of clues left by Reese led him to her father. Greta asked if Reese liked to sing or if he touched Hobbes before his execution. Hobbes confirms he did. Greta agrees to talk on one condition. Hobbes will never speak of this or put it in the records. She explains that after her father caught a serial killer, copycat crime started. Milano was soon named as a suspect and his badge was confiscated. The important people decided that Milano needs to be sacrificed so that the public can be given a hero, though there was no real evidence found against him. She says those important people are still active. Milano wasn't able to clear his name. He went to their family cabin and finished himself off. Greta says she knows her father was innocent. When Hobbes asks how she knows, Greta refuses to talk. She says talking about it might put her life in danger. Hobbes thanks her for her time and leaves. Later, while coming home, Hobbes passes by Nunes. That night he again receives a call. As usual, nobody answers. The next morning, Nunes calls his employer to apologize for his absence during the past few days, saying he must have gotten drunk and he doesn't remember anything. The employer's wife tells him that he insulted him and quit. Nunes isn't able to believe he did that. Just then, someone knocks at his door. When he opens, someone attacks and finishes him off. The next day, Jonesy tells Hobbes that he contacted a linguist to find out what Reese said. The linguist later comes and reveals that Reese is speaking an ancient language called Aramaic. He asks for more time to translate it and leaves. Hobbes tells Jonesy that he saw some video of Reese's past life and he seems to be right-handed. Jonesy remarks that he must be ambidextrous. Someone phones Hobbes and drops a clue about another murder. The police reach the crime scene to see Nunes' dead body placed just like the previous victims. Even breakfast is set like the previous case. Hobbes finds another clue behind a mirror, linking to Reese's riddle. He tells Jonesy that he passed by Nunes last night. Though he never met him before, Nunes looked at him, right in his eye, like he knew him. The number 2 is written on Nunes' chest. While Hobbes is at the game with Sam and Art, Jonesy visits him and reveals that the fingerprints from the previous crime scene connect to Nunes. It appears that Nunes killed the last man and later met the same fate. Hobbes goes to visit Milano's cabin after this. He finds a hidden basement where some books about demons are placed. On the back of a picture in the book, the word "look" is written. Hobbes locates the place from the photo and removes the paint from the wall to reveal the word Azazel written underneath. Hobbes meets Greta again and asks her what Azazel means. He explains he visited her father's cabin and found a book about demons and how they pass through touch. Greta only warns Hobbes to stop the investigation and leave. Hobbes is later told the phone records reveal that the criminal called Hobbes from the crime scene after the crime. Hobbes says he changed his number so many times yet it never works. Stanton remarks it looks like the job of an inside cop. Jonesy tells Hobbes that according to the linguist's report, the word Reese said meant, "I cannot enter you by touch, but I have many other ways to mess you up." Hobbes learns through research that once demons possess you, they know and remember everything about you, and so they know all tongues. The next day, as a cab driver stops at the police station, a cat rubs against his legs. The man, now apparently possessed, walks in and delivers the demon by touch to other people in a chain until he reaches Lou. Lou approaches Hobbes and asks him where he went. Hobbes asks Lou the reason behind his curiosity. Lou starts to sing "Time is on my side," wiping the smile right off Hobbes' face. Lou then bumps into another man, and that man starts singing the song. This happens once more as the man bumps into Mike, another colleague of Hobbes. Hobbes chases Mike and asks him why he was singing the song. Visibly confused, Mike says he wasn't singing. An old man at the door mockingly smiles at Hobbes and leaves. Hobbes runs out and calls the man, but he doesn't stop. He reads an Aramaic line, which finally catches the demon's attention. The demon turns, now in the man's wife, and, with a smile, asks Hobbes where he picked up the language. Hobbes tells the demon he knows he's Azazel. Azazel says, "Beware of my wrath," and then possesses a number of people around Hobbes to intimidate him. Hobbes rushes to Greta's and forces her to reveal the truth. Greta finally agrees to talk. She says that God and angels exist. Some angels were cast down and punished by being deprived of form. They can only exist in human bodies. She tells him that Reese was not himself at the time Hobbes met him. He was Azazel, sadistic, left-handed, and fond of singing. Hobbes got Azazel's attention, but Azazel couldn't possess him, so he's looking for other ways to mess with him. She further adds that demons are limited in power. The right person can end their lives. Hobbes realizes that all these years Greta has been looking for the right person who is meant to finish Azazel. As the two part ways after this conversation, Azazel watches them and follows Greta. In a possessed body, he blocks her way on the road. Greta runs with Azazel chasing her in different bodies. Greta gets into a cab, but Azazel tacks through the window. The driver speeds off, causing the possessed man to be thrown off. Hobbes comes to see a shaken Greta in the church and says it's best if they aren't seen together anymore. Later, Stanton tells Hobbes that his fingerprints were found on Nunes' crime scene. The authorities now consider him a suspect. Hobbes is shocked by the news. He tells Stanton that the same thing happened to Milano. Stanton advises him to take some time off the case and rest. Hobbes goes home early that day. He greets Sam and his friend Toby before going inside. He notices that things on his desk have been moved. He also notices that Art is trying to hide a black eye. At first, Art doesn't talk about it, but then reveals that Sam punched him. Hobbes recalls Sam's smug smile from a minute ago, realizing he's possessed. He rushes out to find Sam at the door. Seeing he's not possessed anymore, Hobbes runs to Toby, who is now possessed. Hobbes tells him to stay away from his family. Azazel says he won't, and runs off. Hobbes chases Toby down until he falls and transfers Azazel's to a teacher's body. In the new body, Azazel shoots at Hobbes and challenges him to a fight. Hobbes draws his gun and tells Azazel to lower his. When he shoots again, Hobbes shoots the teacher to death, only for Azazel to leave the body and possess another girl. The girl whistles the tune and remarks Azazel is not that easy to kill. Horrified after finishing an innocent man off, Hobbes sits by the body. The witnesses tell the media that the teacher shot at Hobbes first. However, Stanton still says this will get Hobbes in trouble since the man's gun was filled with blanks. Hobbes says it was a setup, but Stanton refuses to believe this. This time, the letters APO are written on the dead man's chest. Stanton tells Hobbes that due to the murder, Hobbes has to pack up and leave. Hobbes goes outside and starts packing. He and Jonesy discuss the purpose of life. Jonesy remarks that when the right time comes, one knows what to do with his life. Later, Greta tells Hobbes over the phone that the fallen angel only lived for one breath outside the human body, which is equivalent to 1/6 of a mile. The next morning, Sam thanks Hobbes for tucking him in last night. Hobbes notices that a window is open. He panics and asks Sam what he remembers from last night. Sam tells him he was tucked in and tickled on the chest. Hobbes lowers his shirt at the chest to see Y written on it. He rushes to Art's room and checks for a pulse. To his horror, his brother is dead. The letters PSE are written on his chest, and a syringe with Azazel's signature poison is placed near him. A tear rolls down Hobbes' cheek, and sadness takes over him. Jonesy calls Hobbes soon after and tells him to watch the news. A possessed woman tells the media that Hobbes shot first and kept shooting at the teacher. Jonesy tells Hobbes they're coming for him. Hobbes quickly packs up and tells Sam to get ready. When Sam asks about Art, Hobbes tells him Art is asleep. They both leave through the window, as Azazel watches with a smile. Sitting on a bus with Sam, Hobbes writes down the complete message from Azazel's victim and asks a nun what it means. She tells him that it's from the Bible. Getting off the bus, Hobbes tells him that his father is no more. Sam asks if Art will go to heaven. Hobbes says he will and hugs him. The two go to Greta's after this. Hobbes cracks the code from the Bible to the line, "Babylon has fallen and become a dwelling place for demons." After brooding for a while, Hobbes wakes Sam up and tells him that he has to go. He tells him no matter what others say, he's doing everything for Sam. Sam only says he'll go back to sleep and hope that when he wakes up, everything will be normal. Hobbes kisses him goodbye. Greta asks him what he plans to do. He says whatever he does, he's doing it to keep Sam and her safe. He then hugs Greta and leaves. On his way, Hobbes calls Jonesy, with the other detectives listening on the call. Jonesy asks Hobbes where he's going. Hobbes gives him an indirect answer, much to the others' dismay, and says he's going to do the right thing. Hobbes goes to Milano's cabin and throws away his car keys. Another car soon approaches the cabin. Hobbes calls Azazel, saying he knows it's him. Stanton steps outside and says he's come to arrest Hobbes. Jonesy also appears. Hobbes gets extremely confused, wondering if any of them is possessed. Suddenly, Jonesy finishes Stanton off. He then shoots at Hobbes, forcing him to go inside the cabin. He then walks in and explains that once he's in the spirit form with only Hobbes around, he'll be able to possess him. He'll put several more murders on Hobbes' head and lead him to a pathetic end. Saying this, he puts the gun to Jonesy's head, but Hobbes attacks him. During the struggle, Hobbes shoots the possessed Jonesy in the stomach. Azazel asks Hobbes what he's planning. Hobbes reveals that the cigarette he's smoking is poisoned. There's no human around for miles, thus they both will die together. Azazel begins to curse. Hobbes shoots Jonesy in the head. Azazel arises and possesses Hobbes' body. He starts gasping and crawling around helplessly, looking for the car keys. He isn't able to find them and dies. It's revealed that the narrator is Azazel. He says this is how he almost died, as he simply possessed the body of a cat in the forest and casually walks away. Thanks for watching, guys.